Just look around you for a second. Your phone, the clothes you're wearing, even the coffee in your mug. We're surrounded by stuff, right? But have you ever really stopped to think about their secret lives? Because behind every single thing you own, there's this hidden journey. It's like this massive global dance of materials, information, and yeah, money. Today, we're going to pull back that curtain.
And it all kind of starts with a really simple question. Think about a carton of milk. I mean, what could be more basic, right? But its journey, the one it took to get to your breakfast table, that journey is the perfect window into one of the most powerful and invisible forces shaping our entire world.
All right, so let's actually trace that path from the farm all the way to your fridge. Now, on the surface, the physical journey, it seems pretty straightforward, but trust me, as you're about to see, there is so much more happening under the hood. Okay, so our carton of milk, it starts out at a dairy cooperative. From there, it moves to a factory to get processed, then it's off to a big distribution center, then the retail store, and finally, bam, it lands in your fridge. This physical path, this is the part we can all sort of picture, and it's the most visible piece of what we call a supply chain, that incredible, invisible network that brings us, well, pretty much everything. But that journey we just described, that is just the tip of the iceberg. To really get what's going on, we need to dissect this thing. We need to look at the anatomy of any supply chain. So, what are the fundamental building blocks? So here's the official definition. At its core, a supply chain is a global network, and its whole job is to deliver products and services from the very first raw materials, think trees or minerals in the ground, all the way to you, the end customer. And it's not just about the physical stuff, it's about all the processes that keep everything moving along.
And here's what's so cool about this. It doesn't matter how complex the product is. I mean, we could be talking about that carton of milk, or we could be talking about a jumbo jet. No matter what, every single supply chain is built around just 3 core players. That's it. Just 3. First up, you've got the supplier. This is the one providing the raw materials. Then you've got the producer. They're the ones who take those materials and actually create the finished product. And finally, there's the customer, you, who receives the product. That's the trio. Those 3 roles, they are the absolute building blocks for every single supply chain on the planet.
Okay, now it would be way too simple if stuff only moved in one direction, right? But a real supply chain, it's more like a living, breathing system, and it's all connected by 4 essential flows that are moving in different directions all at the same time. First, you've got the most obvious one, the one we all think of, the product flow. This is literally the physical movement of the goods, from the supplier through the producer and landing with the customer. Next up, and this one is huge, is the information flow. And you got to think of this one as a 2-way street. We're talking about purchase orders, delivery updates, invoices. All that data is constantly flying back and forth along the chain to keep the whole thing perfectly synchronized. Then, of course, there's the cash flow. And this one moves backward. When you buy that carton of milk, your money doesn't just stop at the grocery store. Nope. It flows backward, or upstream, from you, the customer, all the way back to the original dairy farmer. And last but not least, there's the one almost everyone forgets, the reverse flow. I mean, what happens when you have to return something you bought online, or when a product gets recycled? That's what we call reverse logistics. And let me tell you, it is a hugely important part of any modern supply chain. So, okay, you've got all these moving parts, all these different flows. How on earth does a company manage it all? Well, when you boil it all down, it basically comes down to 2 big strategic choices for how they want to build and control their supply chain. All right, on one hand, you have what's called vertical integration. Think of this as the do-it-all approach. This is where a company tries to own every single step. Like the example here, a paper company that owns the forest, the mill, and the trucks. The big advantage, you guessed it, total control. But then, on the other hand, you have the much more common approach today, lateral integration. This is the do-what-you-do-best strategy. A company focuses only on its core skill, maybe designing a great product, and then it outsources everything else to specialist partners. You give up some of that control for sure, but in return, you get access to world-class expertise and a ton of flexibility. Now, here's the thing. It doesn't matter which of those 2 strategies a company picks. There is one function that acts as the engine for the entire chain, the thing that makes it all go. And that function is logistics. And here's a really important distinction to make. If the supply chain is the what, the overall network, then logistics is the how. It's the practical, nitty-gritty, hands-on work of actually planning and executing the movement and storage of all that stuff at every single point in its journey.
So that might make you think the goal of logistics is pretty simple, right? Just provide the absolute best service possible. Get stuff to customers as fast as you can in perfect condition. But it's actually a little more complicated than that.
And this right here, this is the central challenge of all logistics. If you aim for maximum customer service, we're talking instant, same-hour delivery, your costs are going to go through the roof. But if you aim for the absolute minimum cost, your customer service is probably going to be terrible. So the real goal, the true art of logistics, is finding that sweet spot, that perfect balance between making customers happy and keeping costs under control.
Okay, so why does finding that sweet spot matter so much? Well, because these decisions, they're not just about moving boxes from point A to point B. They have a direct, incredibly powerful, and totally measurable impact on a company's financial health, on its bottom line.
And to see this in action, we're going to look at a really important financial metric called return on assets, or just ROA. The easiest way to think about it is like a scorecard. It just measures how well a company uses everything it owns, its assets, to generate profit. Simple as that. The higher the score, the better the company is doing.
So let's walk through a quick example. We've got a company here, and their return on assets is a pretty respectable 8.9%. That's not bad at all. But they think they can do better, specifically by getting smarter with their logistics.
So they make what seems like a really minor tweak. By making their logistics just a little more efficient, they're able to reduce the amount of inventory they need to keep sitting in a warehouse. And less inventory literally means less cash tied up doing nothing. And now, look at the result. That one seemingly small change, just a simple logistics improvement, boosts their ROA all the way up to 9.5%. That right there is the hidden power of logistics. Small, smart efficiencies can create huge financial gains. It's a direct line to the bottom line.
So, from a simple carton of milk all the way up to the entire global economy, the principles are exactly the same. There's this hidden network of suppliers, producers, and these complex flows constantly at work all around us. It kind of makes you wonder, doesn't it? What other invisible networks are powering your world right now?